Yo, 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 yo. What's up, all you burners, stoners, and potheads out there? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there? Mrs. Weedman.
Yes.
Looking mighty tan.
I got some tan.
We went to the beach on Sunday.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
It was great.
It was a very nice day. Mrs. Weedman loves the beach. It is her happy place. And we decided to take a quick little trip to
Indiana Dunes National Lakeshore.
And we did, as we talked about on the last episode, being careful when you bring cannabis over to a state that is not recreational or medical. And we did, and we just bought some edibles, and we bought our little vape pen. So we were pretty discreet. So we did smoke, and we did have a good time. Mrs. Weedman got too high and had to jump in the water to
I did.
to freshen up a little bit.
We were playing paddleball.
Yes.
And we hadn't drank that much water.
No.
We smoked.
It was
hot. We ate lunch. It was like crazy hot.
It was very hot.
It was like 100 degrees with the humidity index. So it was like a feels like 100 kind of day. It was crazy hot. And so, I was having a little moment. I took a couple big rips off of the pen, and we tried to play paddleball, and I couldn't see so good.
So we dove in the water instead.
And I felt amazing.
Yes, the water was very refreshing. So just a little tip there. If you're a little too high, you're at the beach, and you need to be like, whoa. And the water was probably about 75 degrees, so that's going to wake you right up as fast as possible. So don't forget that if you were ever a little too high.
But I also didn't want to shock myself. I didn't dive right in the water.
I did.
You did. I walked in gracefully, but just the temperature cooled my body down, and I was.
Yeah, you were pretty good after that.
Yeah,
100%. So, hope everyone's doing well out there. I hope the world is okay. We are wishing everybody in Louisiana well, and everybody's in Mississippi well right now. We know Ida hit you guys pretty hard down there. We are praying for you all for recovery, getting your power back, and hopefully your homes will be okay and you are okay. So we love you all down there in the south, and I know that storm's still heading up, and there's going to be some flooding, so hope everyone is okay.
And if we have any listeners in Afghanistan and with everything that's going on over there, we just wish the best for all of you.
Yes, absolutely. In this world of what we got going on, and all you out there with protecting yourselves and wearing your mask still, and just making sure you're just taking care of yourselves out there. We love you all. So, but we're gonna smoke, and we are smoking the home grow today, and have nothing really new to smoke. But I'm excited about the home grow, and I'm excited about the Majin Fujita and it's about 7 days in the dryer right now, so which is nice in the tent drying.
Am I supposed to start smoking?
Oh yes.
Is this my cue to
This
smoke?
is your cue to light up and vipe.
Here we go, people. Here we go.
So Majin Fujita's in the dryer. It's on its 7th day, and super excited. Gonna keep it in there for about another 7-8 days. I've been checking it once a day. Humidity is proper, about 50% humidity. Roughly around 72 degrees. I'd like it to get a little lower, but it's been staying around 72. I'd like to see it around 68 to 70, but whatever. We'll see how it comes out. It's looking good. It's looking very crystally. What'd you say, Mrs. Weedman?
It's beautiful.
Smells nice, too. I'm going to hit this while Mrs. Weedman says hello.
Yeah. When it was in its last moments of growth before I say we like I did anything, before Mr. Weedman took all the plants down and trimmed everything back, you could just see the sparkles off of all of the buds. And these buds were huge, like the length of my hand. Some buds were as long as my hand and almost as wide.
Yeah, I posted some pictures the other day.
They were huge and super crystally. There were some purples, big fat. I think we said this last week, but I'll say it again because it was beautiful. Big fat sugar leaves, trichomes all over the place that were milky and ooh.
Can't wait to smoke it.
I can't wait to try it.
I can't. Well, we did try it, but it wasn't ready. But I cannot wait for this to be done and really, really rip it up. Mm-hmm. So I'm super stoked. Well, we're going to get started. And once again, we love you all out there. Michigan man freed after spending 3 years in jail consuming cannabis while on parole. Earlier this year, the Michigan Court of Appeals ruled individuals of probation can use medical cannabis as long as they're conforming with the Michigan Medical, it says here, Marijuana Act. After serving more than 3 years behind bars for consuming cannabis while on parole, Ann Arbor resident Jason, I'm going to probably butcher this dude's name and I apologize, Szymanski, I got it, was freed from prison earlier this month. Szymanski was originally imprisoned in 2012 for receiving and concealing stolen property, according to a court document. In 2014, he placed on parole for 24 months, which was extended into 2018 following violations related to his possessions of using cannabis. According to the GoFundMe page set up for support Szymanski, the stolen property was an iPod. Oof. Szymanski, a registered patient under the Michigan Medical Cannabis Act, attempted to have his parole condition modified to allow for his medical consumption, but his request was denied. In 2018, after testing positive for THC, Szymanski was returned to prison, according to the Last Prisoner Project. Earlier this year, Michigan Court of Appeals decided People v. 2 ruling that individuals on probation can use medical cannabis as long as they are conforming with the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act per the Nicholas Law Firm. After the ruling was issued, advocates include the Michigan Cannabis Freedom Coalition, the Cannabis Caucus of Michigan Democratic Party, the Clean Smoke Initiative, the Redemption Foundation, and others began fighting for Szymanski's release, according to the LPP. Early on August 11th, he was released from Parnell Correctional Facility in Jackson, Michigan. Freedom's unbelievable, Szymanski said outside the prison walls while speaking to a member of the Michigan Cannabis Freedom Coalition in a video. Thank you so much. Words don't express. I just want to give back, and I've been given, and I'm so thankful for that. Earlier this year, there was another Michigan restaurant. 69-year-old Michael Thompson was released from prison after serving 25 years for selling 3 pounds of cannabis to undercover informant. And he said, I can't believe this. Today it feels like I'm in a dream, but I'm happy it's finally over. Rashwanda Littles Thompson's daughter told reporters gathered outside the Charles Eagle Reception and Guidance Center in January. Like Thompson, Szymanski now resumes his life in a state that legalized cannabis in 2018. We can end this, Szymanski says in the video of his release, referring to cannabis prohibition. We can end this soon federally. Well, good for him and good for Mr. Thompson and Szymanski. Glad you guys are out and able to use cannabis freely under the Probation Act. So good luck, gentlemen. And then another Michigan man, white boy Rick, is out of prison, entering Michigan cannabis industry. What we all need to know. At the age of 17, Rick Wershey Jr. was sentenced to prison for cocaine possession after having been used by the FBI as an informant since he was a boy of 14. Jeez. Known as White Boy Rick, Wershey, now 52, was released in July 2020 for good behavior after serving 33 years in a federal prison under Michigan 650 lifer law. Ooh, 33 years. Oh, man. Exactly a year later, he sued the FBI and Detroit police for $100 million for having recruited him at such a young and impressionable age. And now he's getting into the cannabis industry. His home state of Michigan is just the place to be. The Eighth is what it's called. Wershey will be calling the company The Eighth, a double entendre, he told the Detroit Metro Times. The name refers to a standard measurement for cannabis, but also the Eighth Amendment of the Constitution that prohibits cruel and unusual punishment, which Wershey apparently feels that he and many other drug prisoners were and still are subject to. I had to run into the people in prison, and we're doing life sentences for cannabis, and now it's legal, Wershey said. So doesn't that tell you how crazy our drug laws are? Wershey is an outspoken advocate for prisoners affected by the injustice of the war on drugs, which he calls the biggest sham that has ever existed in America. To help set up the Eighth, Wershey will partner with Michigan-based Pleasant Trees Cannabis Company, which he chose because the company's social equity plans were in line with his own, though other companies approached him. One of the things that sold me about Pleasant Trees was the criminal justice reform that they were already working on, Wershey said. So when they started talking to me, it was kind of like hand-fitting a glove perfectly. Jerome Crawford, director of legal operations of social equity at Pleasant Trees, agrees. For better or for worse, Rick has become the poster child of what it means to be over-criminalized and prosecuted for drugs, Crawford said. The war on drugs is really a war on people in impoverished communities, especially black and brown communities. A high-profile prisoner now in the movie industry, as one of the well-known cases in the drug war, and with attitudes having changed drastically, Hollywood scouts are circling White Boy Rick. Will be played by Eminem in an upcoming Stars series, which follows a 2018 biopic and starred Matthew McConaughey. Better yet, it's Wershey's own film. So the documentary will be coming out. We wish him luck, and as we do, we always try to help out and talk about the Last Prisoner Project and low-level cannabis crimes and nonviolent crimes and victims out there. So good luck, gentlemen. I'm pretty baked.
I just noticed that.
I'm pretty baked. I took a really big hit. I mean, it was probably like 3 hits to someone's 1.
Mr. Weedman has his eyes half closed.
I'm also working on my mic a little bit better. I hope. I've had some friends of the show reach out to me and say, you always sound a little low. And it's because I get really high on the show and my voice starts going lower and lower. I'm adjusting my mic. I'm putting it more closer to my mouth, so hopefully all of you out there in the world can hear me better, especially the ones that reached out to me, and I appreciate
without
the
having
help.
to turn your volume up to 60 in your car.
Yeah,
like
right?
Me.
So thank you, friends of the show, for letting me know this and helping me become better and a better podcaster. I appreciate y'all, friends of the show. Mrs. Weedman.
Yeah, I'm just going to interject here that Sarah Silverman, is that her name? The comedian?
Sure.
She was on the other night and she was quite funny. And she made a reference to like, everyone's a podcaster.
Oh,
like
right,
some celebrity was like, yeah, I started a podcast. And she's like, dude, who doesn't have a podcast?
It's very
like everybody
true now.
has a fucking basement podcast.
Well, we actually do.
So we do have a basement podcast, but hopefully we go above and beyond and bring you good information, good news, maybe a little laugh,
A little kindness.
maybe scratch your head every here and there. Like, what are they talking about? A little confusion. Maybe we get you fired up on a topic, whatever. We just hope we give you something to listen to.
Yeah, and share
We're
this
trying.
share this podcast with everybody.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
If they want to learn about cannabis and they want to have a laugh and smoke with some people. Someone reached out to me and said, it's a new listener. He was on episode 1 and he said, dude, I love your guys' show. And this was the beginning when I had Dovboy, T, Paulie, and Shawty on. And he's like, dude, I love your guys' show. I started on episode 1 and now I'm on episode 5. And now I find myself talking like I'm in the room with you guys.
He's like, I find myself thinking I'm part of your conversation.
Right. And he starts talking. Yeah, and then he goes, then I realize I'm not.
laughing.
I love it. I love it.
Fun.
So
we love hearing the stories.
yeah,
so.
the stories is what it's all about. On my tagline, it says it's all about the stories.
And we have gotten away a little bit from like basically like Cannabis 101 kind of topics. So if there are topics that you do want to hear about specifically, if there's things that you want us to talk about as a beginner user, we're more than happy to try to accommodate.
And we have had people email us about topics.
Yeah.
And we've answered back right
try
away.
to do some research and bring you some more information about that.
So
yeah, totally. We're open for
yeah. And as we go through, as we've done this show for now 62 episodes, we did a lot of education in the beginning. And as we learn more on that early research and the early podcast shows, we come up to date and we talk about new stuff, about stuff we've learned from the past. So that's what I try to do, especially like new cannabinoids and new terpenes and more different ways of learning, not just about the news, but we always want to make sure we're educating ourselves and helping you learn too, I guess.
That's our plan.
That's our plan.
So here I go with something educational. This is pretty cool. Did you know that you could clean the air with cannabis?
Do you know that you need air to live?
Well, duh.
It's one of the basic
Seriously?
necessities.
Did you just ask me that?
I'm just saying.
Are you high?
No, well, a little bit.
You asked me that really seriously.
I just did.
Like, did you know?
I know, but did you know you need
I just found out today.
I was being a little sarcastic.
I know. Mr. Weedman, guess what?
What?
You need air. You got to breathe air to live.
And can cannabis help?
It can.
Tell us about the air.
As many of you may know, that forests all over the world are in flames right now. When you also consider all of the effects of the air pollution and carbon emissions, the threat to our lungs has gotten quite real. According to the annual State of the Global Air Report published by the Health Effects Institute, 90% of the planet's population is breathing unhealthy air. It's very easy to look at the world and the direction it's headed with fear and dread. However, there are solutions, and one of them is cannabis. Believe it or not, the fact is that the cannabis plant can help clean the air. Cannabis acts as a carbon sink. A carbon sink is a natural system that sucks carbon out of the soil and the atmosphere and stores it. Our biggest natural carbon sinks are the ocean, plants, and soil. Thanks to deforestation and the increase in greenhouse gases, a vicious cycle of climate change has been sped up. So in order to clean the air quickly, we need to plant hemp in every possible place that we can. While that may seem extreme, it's actually backed by science. In an effort to reduce their global emissions, the Australian government ordered a study on the role of industrial hemp in carbon farming. What was found was that hemp provided an ideal solution in both the environmental and economic sense. So what's the science behind the clean air with cannabis?
Science. Tell us the science.
Well, I'm no scientist, but hemp works as one of the best plant carbon sinks because of its growth rate, molecular makeup, and the biomass of its cannabis stalks. The cellulose content in industrial hemp is very high, and it gets displaced with carbon it takes out of the atmosphere. Through photosynthesis, that was a big one.
Very good.
I'm feeling a little tongue-tied. Through photosynthesis, that carbon permanently bonds to the molecules. Thus, any concern about contaminating its surrounding environment is completely eliminated. The chemical makeup of cannabis is truly incredible, and we could use it to replace all oil-based and plastic products. What? From the moment it is planted, hemp removes CO2 from the air and soil. Whatever is sucked out of the air gets locked within the plant. Plus, but that strikes a question in my mind. Like if all that CO2, which is a pollutant, ends up in the plant when you're growing.
It's a filter.
I know what it's saying. It stays in the plant. So does that affect what you? No, because that's in the stem, like the stalk, right?
Right.
So it doesn't affect the weed.
Nope.
Well, that's good.
Very good.
Whew. Crisis averted.
It's also a natural filter too, because don't forget what
I know, but that's
what
like
does it
eating
release?
liver. I don't want to eat
what
liver.
does it release once it takes CO2, it releases through the leaves in the body of the plant oxygen.
Oh, are you a scientist?
No, but I learned that in school.
It's pretty good.
I was very good. I liked animal shows. You know that. I like animal shows, and I like learning about animals, and I like learning about forest and all that. That's what I should have really went to school for.
You should be a scientist.
No.
You should be an environmentalist. Go chop a tree down and plant 5.
There you go.
There you go.
Or plant a lot of hemp.
Yeah. Go plant a bunch of hemp. That's a great idea. Well, back to this article. So from the moment hemp or cannabis is planted, it removes CO2 from the soil and air. Whatever is sucked out of the air gets locked within the plant. Plus, these fibers can be used in everything from building materials, everyday household items, cosmetics, and even in cars. I did see a home design show, and this particular architect worked with, it was like a hemp lime. Basically, he was building like a stucco or like an adobe
Insulation.
kind of an adobe style home.
Right.
It was all mud and water, and it was hemp. It was ground up hemp.
Funny you
with
say
lime.
that, because one of the articles I was going to read a little bit later, but I don't have to. U.S. government invests $90K in a hemp insulation firm.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go. So it'll be just crazy to see how the plant, as hemp starts growing more and more stateside here, and realizing how many different ways it can be utilized. It'll be great to see. I mean, what if we could replace
We're not fast
plastics?
enough, though, on the manufacturing part of it, and that's what's hurting the
I know.
industry.
We don't need to go there.
Sorry.
All right. Let's just think about the hopeful, promising future of hemp
100%.
and how it could help us go closer to carbon neutral.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Would be amazing.
That'd be great. Go ahead, Mr. Weedman.
Thanks, Mrs.
Take it over.
Weedman.
Take it over.
Appreciate you.
Sure.
I want to talk about bud tenders. And I want to talk about dispensary bud tenders. Bud, B-U-D, tenders. There's a new social media app called Tether for a professional network. But before I talk about this article a little bit, and I'm not talking about the cultivation aspect of it. I'm talking about dispensaries and the people that work in the dispensaries, the bud tenders. It's just like being in the restaurant and bar industry, where the most important people were the people on the floor and behind the bar. They are your frontliners. They are the bud tenders at dispensaries are the front lines. They are the people taking care of you. Medical patients, the bud tenders are there to help you get your medicine and to find what best works for you. Social users, recreational users, those bud tenders can give you the best product if you're nice to them, and can lead you into the right direction of what's good for you if you're looking to go to a show and you want something that's going to get you into the show, something at home to relax with, something to help you maybe study, something to maybe help you with anxiety. Whatever. The bud tenders are important. If you go to a dispensary, if you buy from your plug, probably doesn't know much about cannabis in general. They're just your plug to get you what you need. Some do. Some take it seriously. Some just grab and go into the delivery people. But your bud tenders, folks, take care of them. Be nice to them. If product is out at the dispensary, take care of them. Don't get mad. It's not their fault. Okay? So be nice to bud tenders. And I salute all you bud tenders out there with a big fat doink, because you guys get it done. And gals get it done. And peoples and human beings, you get it done. So cool. There's a Tether, it's called. It's a social community with professional purposes, and that's what explained. So take a look at it if you're interested. I'm just saying. I just saw the article, and I was more hyped up about talking about bud tenders than I was about the social networking media thing. Money talks, political lobbying against cannabis legalization. What you need to know. First off, what's a lobbyist, Mrs. Weedman?
Oh, trick questions.
I
They go to help get bills passed in the House.
But how do they do it?
Through writing laws.
No. The lobbyists are basically, it's okay.
Can I guess again?
It's okay. No, the lobbyists are basically the men that are sent, the people.
Like, this is like double jeopardy.
No, here we go.
I didn't even get to pick how much I want to win.
Well, you lost. So they're the men or the women or peoples that work for corporations or work for companies or are out there trying to get a bill passed, which you were correct.
Yeah.
But they are the middleman from the corporation that wants this bill passed to help them get stuff done. And they go to the politicians and basically sponsor things. I mean, you all know how lobbyists work, I believe. They give money.
Someone gives them a little money and says, go fix this so I can do what I want to do.
Right. So that's what lobbyists do.
And then they go to...
So there's the lobbyists that want cannabis passed, and there's the lobbyists that don't want cannabis passed because maybe there's a pharmaceutical company saying, make sure it never pass. And then there's this from another state that's saying, get this passed federally so we can do more stuff. So, I don't know. Money talks. Political lobbying against cannabis legalization. So, cannabis is huge, trendy, and poised to be the thorn in the heel of certain industries that can just no longer compete. Because of this, not everyone supports legal cannabis, and several wealthy companies are buying political influence or lobbying in hopes of suppressing the momentum of the growing industry and legalization movement. We talked about political lobbying, so I don't need to go into that. But is there anybody fighting for cannabis? Again, anybody can lobby for pro-cannabis. Lobbying is becoming just as commonplace as pushing to maintain prohibition status quo has been up till now. The exact numbers are a bit hazy, but estimates indicate that cannabis companies spent a record of $10.6 million on political lobbying during 2019 and 2020, which is only pocket change compared to some of the big spenders on Capitol Hill. But it's a six-fold increase over just a couple of years ago. So, there's people fighting for cannabis. There is people fighting against cannabis. There's people that fight for alcohol laws. There's people that fight for tobacco. And those two companies some are for it and some are against cannabis. Don't you think? I've talked about Marlboro wanting to get in the game. Mm-hmm. So, and then there's lobbying cannabis and the pharmaceutical industry. Knowing what we know about cannabis and how the compounds work with the human endocannabinoid system, it makes sense why it can be used medicinally and treat so many different and wildly varying ailments. It's also safe to assume that it's an effective, non-toxic, and natural therapeutic. Cannabis has a potential of completely replacing dozens, if not hundreds, of existing pharmaceutical medications. According to retired police officer turned legalization advocate Howard Woodridge, Big Pharma is a top opponent of legalization due to the emerging potential of cannabis as an alternative to Advil, ibuprofen, all the way to Vicodin pills for nausea. And it's expensive to buy. So that's somebody else talking about it. So just think about when it comes to political lobbying, the fight for or against cannabis is real. And we'll see what happens in the next couple of years. Police unions and prisons industries are against cannabis. There might be a few that might be for it, but a lot are against it because prisoners in jail, and we pay our tax dollars pay for that. And it's all the prisons are owned by corporations now. So of course they don't want it. So there's tides that are shifting. Like I said, Marlboro's investing, companies, there's alcohol companies investing. So here's the final thoughts of this article. Although anti-legalization proponents often have more money, influence, and lobbying power than the little guys pushing for fair weed reform, legalization advocates have still managed to secure major political cannabis victories across the country. They pull it off by taking ballot initiatives straight to the voters, because we all know the only way to get really things done is by circumventing the political obstacle course and going directly to the people who matter. And we all matter, you burners, stoners, and potheads. Never forget that. Illinois, all the licenses have been given out, all the lottery winners, and most of that won had political connections and industry ties already.
No way. I'm slapping my knee on that one. If you're from Illinois, or if you're not from Illinois, you probably know. We have a little bit of corruption in our political system.
The machine. So,
of course, they all went to people with deep pockets.
Only a few private, but mostly it was all people that had connections. North Carolina senators approved medical cannabis legalization bill in committee. That's the first step. It's moving forward, which is great. California shattered cannabis tax revenue record in last fiscal year, state reports. That's crazy. $212 million for the first, roughly tying in the first quarter of the fiscal year in tax dollars. That is absolutely freaking ginormous. It's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Arizona brings in $21 million in cannabis tax revenue for July. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is.
New Mexico is officially accepting recreational cannabis producer applications. As we know, New Mexico is having a tough time getting any cannabis out as fast since they went rec.
Oh, really?
They weren't ready for it. It'll come. Just like Illinois, they weren't ready for it. Took them a good year and a half. They're still not enough.
They have medical, but then they're also recreational.
Rec, yeah. But once rec happened, there was nobody ready for it.
Oh.
So,
they'll figure it out.
Yes. In New York, there's a new governor, Kathy Hochul. I think I butchered her name, but that's okay. Vows to launch New York's legal cannabis industry that Governor Pierce Nipples stalled on.
Dirtbag. I'm sorry, is that really bad?
He's out. You know, he left his dog at the mansion, I read.
He's just shady.
But then he's like, came back. No, I didn't leave it. I had to come back and get it or something. But the dog was left after everything. He moved out. The dog was his beautiful.
He just had to come back and get it.
I guess, but
it'll just take care of itself until then. Because that's what happens.
Oh my God, terrible. Well, he's out. We'll see what this new governor does. Congress should protect small cannabis businesses from big tobacco takeover. And this comes from the Colorado Attorney General. If this or when goes federally legal and you can cross state lines, the big boys, the big corporations, you don't see them so much now, but I'm sure there's some that have already invested. But the big boys are getting in the game. And this Colorado Attorney General is saying that we need to protect the small business owner, which is good. We'll see what happens. We shall see. I'm pretty heightened right now.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe I think it could be the lemon, this tangy lemon lime, maybe heightening my weed. Is there
I
any
like
way?
that I'm reading the can. It says lemon.
Lemon lime.
Lemon.
Lemon lime.
so fancy.
Lemon. Tangy. But is it, you think this would heighten my smoke?
It could.
It could?
Yep.
Well, we've talked about like a little bit here and there about how to heighten your high, but Mrs. Weeman is going to talk to you more about it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mrs. Weeman.
I have an article here that's going to talk about how to heighten your high when you smoke weed. Have you ever smoked weed on mango? I can't say I have. Have you, Mr. Weedman?
Paulie did.
Yeah?
Yep.
On mango? Or like
he
a mango?
He ate mango, smoked, ate more mango, and he said he felt a little bit more
Really?
heightened. Yeah. Everything was more crisp.
Interesting. Well, despite our nation's confusingly slow embrace of legal cannabis, recreational weed use has been a thing for the millennia. While once it grew wild in parking lots in New York City, it now costs a pretty penny, especially when laced with all of the taxes legal sales add in. So searching for ways to enhance the effects delivered by every bud is a valid strategy. Some of us have skirted the law to smoke weed for years. Others are assessing legal, personalized experiences for the first time ever. And one such experience is getting absolutely zonked. A time-honored tradition for one person means a binge watch of your favorite Netflix show along with a smorgasbord of your favorite snacks, while for others it means social, active, and outdoor fun. Any and all of these are valid ways to enjoy the effects of cannabis consumption, but some might need a little help to feel fully floaty, and we are here to supply some tips and tricks to get you there. So that's kind of a fun little reading to play off of, because we all talk about the stigma of being the lazy stoner. And I have to say, the other day at the beach, was that just yesterday at the beach?
Yep.
We schlepped a whole shit ton of stuff down to the beach.
I would say it was probably about a quarter of a mile.
Yeah. So we each had a beach bag, and we had a cooler. We had a little like collapsible picnic table, a little collapsible like beach tent, towels. I mean, we had some shit. We had a boogie board.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had paddle board. We had some stuff. Our water bottles. Schlepp that. And when you get down to the beach, of course, not only because it's COVID, but just because it's pleasant to be in a more open area, we never just like park it at the base, like right where you enter the beach from the parking. And yeah, so you got to park, you got to walk to that beachfront. Then you got to get down to the water and then walk down the beach to find like your quiet spot. Then you got to set up all your stuff. I'm going on and on. But then it was like a crazy wind day, so we had to keep redirecting and removing our situation.
Yes, so tent.
Then we tried to play paddleball. So
we did well.
Yeah.
But we forgot one thing.
What?
We swam to the sandbar, which is about 100 yards from shore.
Yeah, with like crazy currents pushing us. Lake Michigan is no joke, people. Just in case you don't know.
No joke.
It's a pretty impressive
body
of water. It acts like an ocean. So we were extremely active. We smoked a couple hits off of the pen, but we didn't stop going and moving.
Nope.
We weren't just laying there staring at the sky.
No, it was too windy and the sand was blowing in the tent, so we just stood up the whole time and walked around.
Yeah.
So for 4 hours.
Yeah.
So we're not lazy.
All right. So back to the point here, though. This is about heightening your experience. So you, like, if you're more experienced at smoking, how do you really get all of those benefits? And I think partially, I'm going off on another little tangent, a lot of your experience of smoking comes with experience of smoking. So the more you get to understand how you feel when you smoke, the more I can identify the different feelings that different strains give you, and the more that you can say that you might be able to do things that would enhance that. Because if you just are smoking for the first time, you don't know the difference between enhanced, experience and a regular experience. Okay. So I would say that this is really more for somebody who recognizes those feelings already and knows what one hit of a indica dominant strain makes them feel like, or indica sativa, whatever.
Or the terpenes that are in there that might make them feel that way, or the different cannabinoids. Who knows?
So why are weed and mango a potent mix? This is pretty cool. While it isn't a recipe or a dining guide, knowing your way around certain foods can be helpful when you want to get the most out of a high. And that's thanks to phytochemicals. Cannabis itself is made up of hundreds of these guys, all of which engage the entourage effect. The combined action of those phytochemicals and cannabinoids like THC is what triggers the intoxication we know as high. A good portion of those chemicals are also present in tons of foods, plants, and products. Aromatic compounds like terpenes give weed its luxurious and variant scent. Myrcene, found in mango fruits, is but one of these substances and has been researched for its anxiety-reducing properties. With the right variety of mango and cannabis, you can access this beneficial effect, but it's important to point out that effects vary widely from strain to strain. This isn't mere stoner talk either. The theory behind this is scientifically sound, but the resulting experience will not be easily predictable unless you have a lab handy to perform tests on both your fruit and your fruity weed. Hey, but it's worth a try, right? Myrcene is not only present in mangoes, but also in bay leaves, lemongrass, and cardamom. This funky, pungent phytochemical is also not the only psychoactive terpene in the arsenal. Lemony limonene is often seen as energizing and is easy to access in citrus fruits, while linalool is the floral backbone of soothing lavender. All of these terpenes have been featured in a wave of experience-based products in the cannabis market that purport to direct your experience from dosable pens to sublingual strips and natural edibles. So there's these brands out there already that are kind of putting these phytochemicals into their ingredient list, right? Into their
like
product.
Botanical terpenes, they're putting back in products. They're putting they're putting terpenes back into distillate pens to get that terpene.
Cool. Yeah. Just to give you an enhanced experience.
Yep.
And then there are the less scientifically supported but often repeated anecdotal tricks, which for me means banana bread. So this journalist went on to say, while there's not much data to back it up yet, anyone who has eaten my infused banana bread has gotten inexplicably more stoned than intended. And not because I packed it with high amounts of THC. Sometimes I think it's the spices. I use clove, cinnamon, and cardamom to flavor the delicious loaf. But similarly spiced foods have never worked quite like the banana version. For now, I suspect the effects could be linked to the phytochemicals in the extremely overripe bananas that I use to make it. Pretty cool. All right, you could also try directing your high with aromatherapy. While getting super stoned can be great, let's be real. Enhancing your high might also mean taking it down a notch. There's no proven way to sober up from cannabis overintoxication. And while it's not life-threatening, it's pretty unpleasant for people who didn't sign up for the trip. Anecdotally, sniffing peppercorns and drinking lemonade work, but I prefer to use basic aromatherapy. Using scents to relax the body and brain help you focus on the experience, which inherently enhances it. Grab a whiff of linalool-rich lavender to center things, or dab on some diluted mint to combat pain. These methods work both before and after consumption.
That's cool.
Yeah. Or, of course, you can take a tolerance break. One major way to feel more stoned is to get stoned less often. If you are strictly recreational and a moderate consumer of cannabis, you can probably attest to feeling a bit smacked in the head when you pick it up again, whereas a daily or medical consumer may need a more potent punch to feel the vibe. Taking what's called a tea break, short for tolerance, for a period of time reflective of your consumption habits gives your body's cannabinoid receptors a chance to rest. And you have the option of mix and match. So she says, I struggle to classify with this method as a method, but a pretty common way of saucing yourself up involving combining cannabis with other intoxicating and or psychoactive substances. Caffeine and weed is one of the easiest to pull off. Many regular consumers take in cannabis and coffee at the same time to get a calm focus. Some find it too anxiety-inducing, but this mix is pretty safe, so don't be afraid to experiment if you're already used to using one or two of them successfully, independently and successfully. Other combinations are more complicated. Alcohol and cannabis is yet another go-to for many, but there are risks not widely discussed. THC can magnify the unsafe effects of alcohol. And if you're already drinking a lot, that's not a good idea. Combining the two creates an excess of THC in the bloodstream, which means extra intoxication. While you might enjoy the buzz, just be sure not to overdo it. There's one more mixture that remains quite taboo, but since it's decriminalized in my area, not my area, but the journalist area, I can tell you that psychedelics are regularly consumed, often simultaneously with weed. This is yet another understudied area of research, but some report that cannabis can balance and soften some of the unpleasant side effects of psychedelic substances. A word of caution: I'd strongly recommend keeping them separate until you have experience, as many find it too intense when they take them together. So, even if you've been chiefing since the 70s, try out one of these handy hacks. It could change everything. After all, mixing cannabis into the flow of your everyday life with all sorts of food, drinks, and activities is always the best way to enjoy it.
Nice. I took a college break for a day.
A day.
Couple months ago.
I'm sure that really made a huge
I took a tea break for a day. Well, I mean, I took it for a day. I don't feel I need to. I don't smoke it all day and all night. And who does and who cares if you do or if you don't? Right. I don't feel I need to take a tea break. You know, maybe not at this time. Maybe when I do my juice cleanse every.
I want to try. Oh, we did with
the
aromatherapy one time.
That
Remember
was dope.
One time I don't even know how it happened, but we were standing over by all of my little
aromatherapy bottles, scented bottles.
Yeah, and we were smelling them all.
Yeah, it was great. We smelled them all.
It was pretty intense.
I like the lavender. That was a good one. International news: Canadian cannabis sales increased 59% in June to a record 319 million. I don't have July or August data yet, but it's a lot of money. Good for you, Canada. Costa Rica to debate hemp and medical cannabis bill. Oh, I cannot wait to one day go to Costa Rica, especially when cannabis is legal. Morocco's cabinet approves draft decree legalizing cannabis. That's pretty good. Morocco is one step closer to the legal cannabis industry after draft decree 221-642 was approved by the country's lead executive body. The cabinet, consisting of top ministers within Morocco's government, approved the new decree and a huge step in progress towards cannabis legalization. Go Morocco. The cabinet approved the draft decree, complements legislation that the Moroccan parliament passed earlier this year. During the summer, Morocco issued Law 1321, reclassifying cannabis as a legal substance under Moroccan law. Legalization was also recently passed that created the National Agency for the Regulation of Cannabis. According to the government statements, the new agency will fall under the jurisdiction of Morocco's Ministry of the Interior. Additional provisions in the decree stipulate the composition of new cannabis industry in Morocco. The decree calls, among other things, for the inclusion of various institutions and bodies related to the cannabis industry, saying that their needs should be taken into account in the implementation of the new legislation. This means the new cannabis industry will involve members of Morocco's financial and government institutions, in addition to the farmers that have historically grown the cannabis plant for centuries. Cannabis has a long history in Moroccan society, with an illegal trade estimated to be worth at least $15 billion. Legalization of the cannabis industry is projected to provide the government with a new source of tax revenue, in addition to weakening the influence of transnational drug smuggling operations working within the country. So here's what I'm going to say about that. I wonder how many people are going to comply with the legalization of it and how much will still stay on the black market. How many of those farmers will transfer over? I'm just throwing it out there for people to think. Just Mrs. Weeman was looking at me going, do I have to answer that? So far, legalization only allows for cannabis usage for medicinal and industrial purposes. That means that for now, recreational consumption of the crop will still remain illegal in the country. However, with Morocco's worldwide reputation of producing some of the highest quality hashish products, it remains to be seen how long the government will be able to resist the call for full legalization. I cannot wait if they're totally going to be able to export and send it to this country one day. Smoking Moroccan hashish pure would be amazing. I've only got to smoke pure. I've smoked pure Jamaican hash, but I've smoked a lot of that, but I've never smoked Moroccan hashish.
Many years ago, you had a
yes
black tarry.
about 500 pounds.
donut. It was like literally like a Texas
It was
donut.
Jamaican hash.
That was Jamaican
Yeah.
hash. It was like black.
Oh my God!
sludge.
You want
And
to
it
talk
was
about?
like a brick.
And the only way you could smoke it back then, because there wasn't dab rigs back then, you either melted it and you put it on your rolling papers, or there was a little trick that someone taught me. You take a little mini jar, like you would get like the red peppers, roasted red peppers in the little mini jars. You would pop a nail through the cap, and then you would put the hash on the cap, and then get the jar and put a match and light it and put it there and close the jar up. You don't have to lock it. You just close it over it. The match burns the hash, and when you see it gets all smoky in there, you lift the lid out of the jar and you smoke it.
Oh, that was healthy. Plastic.
That was the only way you could do it.
A little BPA.
There was no plastic. It was glass.
I thought you said a little spice jar.
No. It was a little like roasted red peppers and oil jar, one of those.
Oh, that.
Yes.
All right, I feel much better about that. Then it's okay. As long as you weren't like inhaling plastics.
To be able to get Moroccan hash sent over this country one day.
Does it ever find its way?
Oh
here?
yeah, it does. But I mean, I just had smoking so much of that Jamaican hash. God, it was crazy.
What is hash?
It's compressed weed and plant matter and just all of it. It's like the purest form. Like,
why is it so sticky and tar?
because it's all it's everything. It's terpenes.
Just mushed
it's
together.
It just
Do they
pressed.
just stir it?
They pressed it. It's pressed and pressed and pressed, and it's like it's just process. I've seen it done.
So you just need tiny little bit.
It depends. I mean, but it's so pure and smokes, and you get all the terpenes, you get all the cannabinoids.
Can you buy hash in
Yeah.
dispensaries?
Yeah, you can buy it. Yeah.
Is it very expensive?
Probably for a gram, it's like $65.
That doesn't mean anything to me. Okay. Huh.
I've smoked bubble hash from dispensary. I've gotten some from
So
people
you
that
can
make
buy
it.
it?
Yeah, you can buy
Okay.
it. Yeah, hash is great. I would suggest smoking if you haven't tried it. This was funny, and it was another weekend where these police discovered forest full of weed and a frozen armadillo. Police officers and officials from Trinidad and Tobago's Forestry Division of the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries had a wild ride of a shift last Saturday involving multiple arrests, a forest of cannabis trees, and a frozen armadillo. The team, with the assistance of a canine officer, RC and Adam, were conducting a joint exercise in the Central Division, according to a press release. As a result, the information received regarding illegal ammunition and firearms, officers were granted an executed search warrant at a private residence. While no arms or ammunition was discovered during the search, officers found something else, a frozen armadillo and a field full of weed. The armadillo was seized from the home of the residents and was arrested and formally charged by the local game warden, because I guess it's illegal for killing armadillos and eating them. But weed was there, and they got in trouble for that too, but I think they were more in trouble for the armadillo.
Jeez.
This is cool. Australian man avoids jail time for growing large quantities of cannabis for research medicine, and he received payment for it. An Australian medical cannabis activist has avoided jail time for cultivating large amounts of cannabis after claiming that he did not profit from the grow, instead of distributing his harvest to sick people in need and keeping some for personal research. Good for him. Joshua James Waldron of Queensland, who has long advocated for easier medical cannabis, pleaded guilty to one count of producing dangerous drugs. Well, that's because Australian law makes it say that. And one count of processing dangerous drugs, according to Perth Now. But despite his plea guilty, presiding Judge Jennifer Rosen dismissed the Crown Prosecutor Harrison's assertion that Waldron, who represented himself in the Brisbane District Court, had not turned a profit from his grow, a notion with the Waldron that he disputed on trial. So cool. Good for him. There's a little bit more to this article, but here's what the quote that he says at the end. I hope one day I'm actually going to be a professional and valued in this country for what I do behind cannabis, he said. That's a good quote. Stand behind your cannabis. Degrees for dago growers and government-supplied seeds inside South America's Cannabis Master Plan. South Africa's Cannabis Master Plan looks to industrialize and commercialize cannabis to unlock economic opportunities. The potential size of South Africa's commercial cannabis industry is estimated at $28 billion, with the ability to create up to 25,000 jobs. but the potential can be unlocked until legislation is adapted. Once that's done, small-scale farmers can get their seeds directly from the government, and cannabis-related courses will be included in the curriculum in schools and colleges and universities. That's awesome. Hell yeah. Aurora Cannabis sends first shipment of free cannabis to France because France isn't legal yet. So they're just sending it there for 3,000 patients to do testing on them and stuff. Well, that's fine. Family.
Can't live with them, can't live without them.
There's always a meme about Vin Diesel. It was going on for a while. Everything was about family. And like every single meme, like you'd see Vin Diesel on the side. It's all about our family. You know, it was just for like a good like month. Every meme was Vin Diesel saying that line to like something like maybe a guy
Something
falling
random.
down or it's just stupid stuff going on. It was just him just throwing it. Oh my God, it's too funny. Anyway, family. How do you talk about? I mean, we talk about it openly around our family now. We don't give a shit. So
yeah, but
I don't. I talk about it openly now.
Cannabis.
Yes, 100%. So, but how do we educate people? I mean, there's probably some people still scared to talk about cannabis in front of their family.
I think that there's a lot of people.
How do we get them to stop that stigma?
I don't know. But we have an article here called Breaking the Ice Bong, How to Talk to Your Family About Weed. So our kids, I would say, well, Mr. Weedman's been smoking weed forever. I have not. And so raising our kids, if I smoked a joint maybe 5 times, that would be probably more. That's probably a generous calculation. But when they were in about high school is when we kind of I found my way back to cannabis. And they were old enough. I felt like that I didn't come home and be like, I got wrecked last night. It was like so high. It wasn't that. It was more just approaching it in a realistic aspect and sharing with them when the time was right that we had consumed cannabis.
You.
I mean,
with
yeah.
me.
But I would say like didn't even talk. You didn't smoke.
Never.
The kids never knew that you smoked weed when they were growing up.
Not until they asked me when they were in high school, and I
Right.
told them the truth.
And then around that time where I started having it occasionally, it was more, like I said, situational, where we would talk about it. It wasn't something we talked about regularly. So I think that now that we have this shifting mindset that's happening about cannabis as it legalizes everywhere and people are talking about it more and more and more, I think that even small children, like we've mentioned before, you're going through this phase of kind of prohibition. And I think these kids that are, say, in their 20s right now, that are in 30s, that are getting ready to have children, when those children are born, wherever they live, it's very high probability that cannabis will be legal. So cannabis will be a subject in households with small children from the time kids are young, just like alcohol. I mean, not something they're going to be lecturing their kids about, but just like alcohol and every other thing, it's just going to be a part of life. And so we do have to start embracing the conversation, right? Because it's a shift. We're shifting from don't do drugs and cannabis being quantified as a drug to cannabis is legal. And so now it's like alcohol and we have to talk about it a different way. So it's shifting that mindset from the bad, like gateway drug to it's amazing. And even if you don't think it's amazing, it's legal. And so you have to find this medium of space where you can talk about
And nobody's going to be able to stop this freight train from coming.
It's not going anywhere, but here, more and more and more, right? So this article, it says, as legal adult use weed continues to become the norm throughout the country, people are more comfortable discussing their cannabis use than ever before. It's time to come out of the cannabis closet and start having those conversations. This article was written to help you figure out how to talk to your family and friends about weed. Conversations around cannabis are becoming more common, and older adults who were forced to hide their cannabis use due to past stigmas have anecdotally, I think that's the word of tonight, anecdotally, I think my other articles used it too, have opened their mind back up to the plant as it continues to legalize. Whether your goal is to speak more openly about your personal connection to the plant, educate others about cannabis, or even try to recommend some products you might find that would benefit your loved ones, use this article as a reference point to spark those discussions in a healthy, open, and communicative way. How to talk to parents about weed. So maybe you are a young adult still living under your parents' roof and rules, or you're completely independent. Regardless, talking to your parents about weed use can be pretty terrifying. Of course, a lot of older adults have smoked weed for years, so you might be one of the lucky ones who has parents who have been indulging in the plant since you were born. And I'm thinking too, this can even be adults who have parents, right? I mean, I was in my 30s when I started smoking weed again and became a pretty vocal smoker. Like, I wanted to stop the stigma and educate people. And so, yeah, I had to tell my mom that I smoke weed, and I want to tell you why.
Smoke weed every day,
guess what?
Mom.
You're going to think it's amazing by the time I'm done with this discussion. Well, it was many discussions, but she gets it now, you know? So it can be your parents, whether you're a teenager or an adult, that you still might have to have this discussion with, right? However, it is definitely possible that the decades of anti-cannabis stigma have gotten to your caregivers or your parents before you had the opportunity to change their mind. Or they're so used to having to hide their cannabis use that having an open conversation about it is completely foreign to them. Because of this, it's important to know how to talk to your parents about weed. Starting with the big guns will help you understand how to talk to anyone about weed, from other family members to friends to kids of your own someday, if that's part of your plan. Here are some of the most helpful tips to keep in mind when approaching that conversation. Listen first, then speak. When it comes to any conversation that involves an element of controversy, it's important to remember what you're going into it with. Preconceived stereotypes, disinformation, or biases you may be unaware of. So, rather than firing off on an attack mode and polarizing your loved ones before you can even get to the point you're trying to make, take a deep breath and listen to what they have to say first. This will help you understand what points you need to make, myths that you might need to bust, and most importantly, all of the emotions that are at play. However you're reactive, this cannabis is not allowing me to follow the story. I keep getting ahead of myself. I was really clear-minded in my first story, and then I'm in this downside of the smoke, and it's making my mind scrambled. So let's try again. However reactive your parents, family, or friends may be about your cannabis use, it's likely coming from a genuine place of concern. They care about you, and they just want you to be healthy and safe. Instead of using the opportunity to make them feel uneducated or ignorant, embrace the fact that they want what's best for you so you can better explain how cannabis helps rather than hurts. On the other hand, your parents and older relatives may have some experience with cannabis of their own that they might want to share with you. Allow them to speak first and give them the opportunity to open up and start the dialogue. Here's another one. Lean into the medicinal aspect. The medicinal aspect, right? Your parents' misconceptions about weed likely stem from the negative stereotype that has been associated with the plant for decades, the lazy stoner. While many people may use cannabis for nothing more than recreational fun, that definitely isn't the case for all consumers. Of course, the existence of medical cannabis programs throughout the country attests to that on its own. It wouldn't be legal without good reason, right? Well, your family might need a little bit more convincing. And if that's the case, you might find cannabis research to be a big support for you for this conversation. Share some medical journals that support the long list of cannabis benefits that consumers all over the world enjoy, like anti-insomniatic properties, anxiety-reducing properties, and the soothing of cancer-related symptoms, to name a few. You could even try diving into the history of cannabis. Once your parents have heard a little bit more about the medicinal benefits of cannabis and how the plant has helped consumers all over the world, it's time to dig a little deeper. Cannabis prohibition is less than 100 years old. It also has nothing to do with cannabis being addictive, destructive, or evil, or anything. And everything. Let's redo that.
Make that clear.
It has nothing to do with cannabis being addictive, destructive, or evil, and everything to do with racism. Most people are unaware of this detail, and it's created decades of destruction and disinformation for the industry. Helping your family or friends understand the real roots of cannabis and how it was medicinally used by cultures for centuries can really help shift their understanding and help erase that stigma for good. And then, when you feel brave enough, open up about your own experience. If you've made it this far in the conversation, congratulations. You're likely connecting with some open-minded people. The next step is how to talk about weed with your own experiences with the plant. Your parents understand the medicinal aspects of weed as well as the real history behind its prohibition. Now, if you feel comfortable doing so, it's time to share some of the reasons you use cannabis yourself and how the plant has had a positive effect on your life. Not only will this help your loved ones understand you and your personal needs a little bit better, but it might open them up to the possibility of having their own special connection with the plant. So we have a few products here based on that story that might be good as a new cannabis user to try. Despite the title of this article, ripping a bong right off the bat probably isn't a good idea for anyone.
Yeah, it is. Do it.
Well,
I dare you.
Not if you haven't dabbled in cannabis before.
Just rip the bong.
Or if you haven't touched it in many, many, many moons. So if your family members or loved ones are at a point where they understand the benefits of cannabis and want to see how it works for themselves or reintroduce it into their lives, it's a good idea to start small and ease them into the culture in a way that really addresses their individual needs. You could start with a product that is a CBD-rich tincture. Most people who've never tried cannabis will likely be put off by the act of smoking or by any product with high levels of THC. If that's the case, have your loved one try a tincture that's rich in CBD. This would be perfect for cannabis newbies who are looking for highly effective relief without the haziness of a THC overload. You could then suggest that they try a transdermal CBD patch. It's another great option, which doesn't involve any form of smoking or ingestion. Simply adhere the patch to any venous part of the skin and enjoy 8 to 12 hours of uninterrupted relief. It's great for anyone who needs to reduce pain, combat anxiety, or soothe inflammation. There are balms on the market. If you look for balms that have a higher CBD content than THC, your loved ones will experience a powerful pain relief with activated warmth followed by a cooling sensation. Although these products contain THC, topicals are non-intoxicating, which means consumers won't feel any of those heady effects you would usually experience from smoking or eating high THC edibles. If they want to try an edible, I would suggest going with a 2-to-1 ratio, 2 parts CBD to 1 part THC. And again, your bud tender is where this all comes in. You talk to your bud tender and they'll help you.
Treat them well.
They will take care of you. They know exactly what you're looking for if you are able to explain what you want. You give them your symptoms or what you're trying to achieve. They will know the product that will match with that. If your loved one is more interested in trying a cannabis edible that isn't going to make them feel completely out of it, try easing them into the experience with a 2-to-1 CBD THC gummy. These will pack a little more punch than any of the previous products since there is present THC, but these gummies contain twice as much CBD as THC, making them a great option for anyone trying cannabis out for the first time. Now, to graduate a little bit more, then try a 1-to-1 ratio of CBD to THC. So equal parts, right? Look for a low dose, equal part THC, CBD, maybe a 5 milligram to get started. They'll help consumers dip their toes into the experience, giving them a balanced feel. They'll feel calm and in control. You'll get a little head high, but a nice body high. So,
even if you got to take half of that 5 milligram and do a 2.5.
Yeah. But bottom line is when you are having these conversations, the more that you know And the more that you can give a firsthand experience of why you use THC in your day-to-day will help them understand the benefits of it, right?
Yeah.
And if they do decide that they want to give it a try, the best thing that you can do, because you might only have one shot at introducing cannabis to somebody, is go low and slow. I mean, like, it's just so important. A 2.5 milligram edible, a 5 milligram edible for a very first time, or just one puff if they want to smoke. One puff. It's
Yeah,
just
because
so important.
if you
to pace
introduce
it.
people to it correctly from the start and let them work their way and not just blast them, and then because you think it's funny, you introduce it to them properly, and then they'll like it, and then they'll support it, and then we'll stop the stigma more, because then they'll promote it and talk more people how well it does for them.
Yeah, and I just know firsthand that there's so much to learn about how you feel with cannabis. I mean, think about how many people in their 40s and 50s and 60s still don't even know how to handle their booze.
I still don't.
I mean, that's cannabis. I mean, it's not about how much you handle. It's just about how high you get. I think that it's cool, really. It's not even like trying to be over controlling or not wanting to just get totally baked out of your mind. It's more about, like, I really want to feel what I'm feeling. So I don't want to just get high because I want to, like, zone out and zen. I want to know, like, hey, this makes me feel really creative. This makes me feel really clear-minded. This one makes my body just feel like I don't even know it's there.
Like Jell-O.
Yeah, there's just so many aspects of cannabis. And if you don't get high the right way, maybe you won't learn to appreciate it.
You'll
so
be
if you
scared
just
of
get
it.
blazed out of your mind and then you're like, I got sick. Well, cannabis doesn't make a majority of people sick. So you're doing something wrong.
100%.
Someone has directed you the wrong way.
Yep.
So talk to your bud tenders. Go to a dispensary. Don't feel uncomfortable. It's only going to be uncomfortable, just like anything else in life, the first time you do it.
I wish in Illinois they would. It's so weird because you want people to come in. There
like
should
an
be
open house kind of thing.
Maybe, but like somebody like that has a med card now that can go to any dispensary and take somebody into a dispensary for their first time,
Like a field trip.
and be
I
like,
believe there are such things.
be your guide. There might be. I don't know. It just came in my head. Like,
Right.
let me be your guide to the dispensary your first trip, and let me explain how the whole process goes. And I know they can walk in, but some people are just scared to walk in that door
because it's intimidating.
So if they went with somebody,
Right. That's what we should have. There should be a buddy system.
buddy system.
The dispensary should have like a buddy system board. You sign up and be a buddy.
Well,
And
the
then
bud tenders are my buddies. So
like, look, this could be really cool. When you're a medical patient, you get assigned or you pick your dispensary, and that's the dispensary you go to.
not anymore.
Oh, now you can go anywhere.
Yeah, you can go anywhere.
I
The
forgot
law
about
just
that.
changed.
Okay, so I don't know how this would work, but if the state released, hey, in your zip code, there's 5 new medical patients today, and that goes out to a dispensary, and the dispensary has a list of people who have opted and said, yes, I'll be a buddy. I'll take
That's
someone.
a fucking great idea.
I'll take someone to the dispensary for their first day. Then when those 5 new patients come into that dispensary or come into that market, they have someone that can be their like buddy.
Like they can do a chat.
Or maybe the dispensary just has somebody there. And you
Right.
just call
They
and be
do.
like, I want a buddy.
No, they do.
Yeah.
But still, I'm just saying, but some people, it's weird just walking through the front
it's that-
door.
yes.
Doesn't matter that there's a dispensary worker there or a bud tender or a greeter
It's
welcoming
overwhelming.
you in.
It's so different.
But just like,
Yeah.
what if someone sees me that I know?
Yeah.
I want this to be discreet at first because I don't know how my job feels about it or my neighbors will feel about it. It's a very, very... for me, I was excited. I was like a kid in a candy store.
Mm-hmm.
But for most people, like we just met a woman on Saturday, 62 years old, that just started smoking cannabis when she retired. She was totally against it, 100% against it her whole life. And now she loves it. And those are the stories I love to hear because they understood it and like totally wouldn't even allow her kids to touch it. Nothing. Hated it. And now she's a believer. And prefers that over anything else. So, which was awesome. She had a pen on her. She was ripping that thing like crazy. It was awesome. I was stoked.
Let her rip.
So
It's just
I like the buddy system idea. I think that's great.
it's neat. I just think that
Call
you
Mr.
gotta
Weedman.
get your feet wet.
Yeah.
Just put yourself out there. Go to your dispensary. Educate your family. Educate your friends because a lot of this, like breaking the the stigma stems from us having the conversation. So start talking about it, and I guarantee you, if you're talking to 3 people, at least one of them will say, I smoke, or I'd like to smoke, or I'm really curious. And it's an opportunity for you to educate all 3 of those people so that then everybody's on board and they all want to go to the dispensary. And I'm not saying to like encourage bad behaviors and whatever, or habits or whatever. I believe personally that cannabis is medicinal, and I think that it's amazing. And so I'm going to continue encouraging it.
Get on that soapbox, Mrs. Weedman. I always tell everybody it has angels in the leaves.
Whatever.
2 True Leave employees charged in theft of $135,000 of medical cannabis. Gadsden County, Florida. The Gadsden County Sheriff's Office arrested 2 True Leave employees on Wednesday, inside job, for allegedly taking cannabis valued over $135K from the store. According to the Sheriff's Department, the True Leave lost prevention in the arrest of the 2 employees from one of the True Leave distribution plants located in Midway. The report states that True Leave employees were observed taking over 10K grams of medical cannabis and valuing $135K. During further investigation, said of 7,500 grams were recovered in Gadsden County, and the other 2,500 grams were recovered in Leon County. Man, that's the thing you got to worry about when you own a cultivation or dispensary, is theft. So, Guns N' Roses launches a line of smoking accessories. Good for them. Here's what I was going to say. I saw a video, I think they played a few days ago, or maybe it was someone posted like a week ago, of Guns N' Roses playing. And I like Guns N' Roses. I liked them since high school. They got some good songs. They're a good band. I mean, Slash is a great guitarist. Axl Rose was at one point to me a really good singer, but I think he just needs to put the vocal cords up. That's just my opinion. It was just bad. It's just, I mean, the band was great. The couple songs I saw him play that someone posted, I was like, oh my God, Slash was just jamming, had the double guitar going, it was, just jamming out.
Just like that.
Just like that. But actually, that was like Axl Rose's voice. It was just not him. You guys can all chastise me out there that are older or younger or listen to Guns N' Roses. I'm not saying they weren't they were a good band. They're still a great band. It's just time to put the vocal cords up. That's all. Don't kill me. Just my opinion. O'Fallon Brewery, Swade Cannabis team up for Moai, a non-alcoholic THC beer. And I'm a very fan of craft beer. I sold it for a long time. Love craft beer. But this is kind of cool. Fans of a non-alcoholic beverage and non-flammable THC, great cause for celebration this week. Swade Cannabis and O'Fallon Brewery have teamed up to launch a new cannabis-infused craft beer. The new craft beer dubbed Moai will pair O'Fallon's brewery beer-making prowess with Swade Cannabis parent company, Belief, to produce the stony new suds. And while the team could have opted to simply leave the alcohol in the beverage, making for a double whammy, drink that would make even the OG4 Loco blush, they opted instead to employ some capital S science in order to deliver the option suited for those who prefer to go alcohol-free. So that's pretty cool. Looking forward to trying it one day. So I don't know. I don't see anything about THC content in here or anything. So, but it's going to be like $8 pre-tax and 34 4-pack. Ooh, and I think you can get it in Missouri with a medical card. So, but I don't see the THC content. I'm sorry, everybody. I failed you. But, oh well. Hey, Mrs. Weedman.
Yeah.
You got anything else to say?
No.
No? You know why I think we're so mellow? Like, we feel like I can go crash right now?
Mm-hmm.
That strain is the first batch of the Weedman 420 experimental strain. The first one I grew last summer.
Oh, it's
so
old.
That is a year old. So that was a topper too. So that was I saved it because I wanted to see if CBN would actually develop in it. There could be possibly some CBN in there because it made me so
just
like
chill.
slump.
Super
Yeah, very chill. So it's not that it's bad. As weed gets older, it does develop CBN, which is a cannabinoid, which we've talked about on the show many a times. But CBN does play into the sleep effect. It does get you very mellow. So I forgot that wasn't the new Weedman 420 Chronicles. That was the first batch with the last topper. That's the last of that. And we've been smoking that all week before bedtime, and it's been, oh my God, amazing. So now that was the wrong strain to smoke for this show. That's for sure. So you got nothing else to say?
I got nothing.
Really?
Nothing.
All right. Well, everybody, this was a great show. And why? Because we're trying to learn to stop the stigma. And the more we talk about it, the more we're vocal about it, the more we fight for it. Legalization, it shouldn't even be, it should just be free. That's it. It should be a free plant. It's a plant. We should be able to grow it. And as we talk about it more and we fight for it more and we fight to stop the stigma, but we also need to fight to free the plant. That is huge for me. Education is going to help with that. Learning and growing every day. I just believe in that totally, that it can come true and we don't have to be judged by anybody who doesn't smoke it or doesn't know anything about it, that we can walk freely like New York, that you can smoke cannabis out in the open now. Every state should be able to do that, hopefully one day. So, I don't know, man. Stomp that fucking stigma, right, Mrs. Weedman?
That's right.
That's right. Anyway, we love you all out there. Thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you have a great time this weekend. I think it's going to be Labor Day for some people. So, right? So enjoy the time off if you go to the beach. Paulie and O-Dog are coming into town to visit their Mr. and Mrs. Weedman parents. Us.
Our kids, let me translate. Our kids are coming home.
Very, very excited.
We get to visit with them for a whole week. It's going to be
super
awesome.
Stoked. Maybe we could talk them into doing the show with us.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Maybe.
We'll see. It's very tough to get them to do anything these days. So, hey, everybody, we love you all. Thanks for listening. As always, check us out on Weedman420 Chronicles on Instagram, Weedman420 Pod on Twitter. Sorry about that. Weedman420 Chronicles at gmail.com. And thank you all for listening again. As Paulie always says, smoke smart. Puff, puff, and away.
Puff, puff, pass.